In the vastness of space, humanity sought new worlds to conquer. But what they found was beyond imagination, a planet teeming with life, so alien it defied all logic. A team of scientists embarked on a journey to study this enigmatic ecosystem, only to uncover secrets that could threaten their very existence. From bioluminescent forests to sentient oceans, every discovery brought them closer to unraveling mysteries older than time itself. Yet danger lurked in every shadow, testing their resolve and challenging everything they thought they knew about life. What will they sacrifice for knowledge? And can they survive long enough to share it with the universe? Subscribe now to witness the thrilling saga of survival, science, and the unknown. The starship descended through layers of swirling clouds, breaking into a world bathed in hues no human eye had ever seen before. Below stretched endless expanses of terrain unlike anything cataloged in Earth's databases. Vast crystalline plains shimmered under twin suns, while towering structures resembling organic coral rose from the ground like ancient sentinels. The air vibrated faintly, as though alive with whispers carried by invisible winds. Scientists aboard the vessel exchanged glances filled with equal parts awe and trepidation. This was not merely another mission, but a leap into the abyss of the unknown. They had traveled light years to reach this distant exoplanet, chosen for its unique biosignatures detected decades earlier by deep space telescopes. Every instrument aboard hummed with anticipation as data streams began flooding consoles. Initial scans revealed atmospheric compositions compatible with human life, yet something felt off. It wasn't hostility, it was complexity. Layers upon layers of interconnected systems suggested an ecosystem far more intricate than anything imagined. As landing struts touched down gently on the surface, the crew prepared themselves mentally and physically. Their objective was clear: document, analyze, and understand. But none of them could have predicted how profoundly this alien world would reshape their understanding of life itself. Before stepping out, they reviewed protocols meticulously designed to minimize interference with the environment. Containment suits were checked twice over, ensuring zero contamination between species. Despite these precautions, excitement bubbled beneath the surface. For years, humanity dreamed of finding life beyond Earth, and now they stood on the precipice of discovery. Each breath taken inside the ship seemed heavier, charged with the weight of history. Outside, the horizon beckoned, promising answers to questions humanity had asked since its dawn. Emerging from the ship, the team stepped cautiously onto soil that pulsed faintly beneath their boots, a phenomenon neither solid nor liquid, but somewhere unsettlingly between. Instruments buzzed erratically, struggling to categorize readings too foreign for pre-programmed algorithms. The horizon stretched endlessly, dotted with strange formations that seemed to shift when observed indirectly, vanishing if stared at directly. Bioluminescent flora emitted soft glows in rhythmic patterns, almost like breathing. It became apparent early on that these plants weren't passive entities. They responded to movement, recoiling or blooming depending on proximity. One scientist knelt to examine a cluster of translucent stalks, only for them to emit a sudden burst of light, startling everyone. This reactive behavior hinted at intelligence, or at least some form of awareness, that blurred the line between plant and animal. Meanwhile, microscopic drones deployed ahead of the group relayed images of even stranger phenomena: rivers flowing uphill, rock formations rearranging themselves overnight, and pockets of air where gravity appeared weaker. Each observation raised more questions than answers. Despite rigorous training, unease crept into the minds of the researchers. Were they guests here, explorers welcomed by nature's wonders, or intruders disturbing a delicate balance they couldn't yet comprehend? As hours passed, the team realized the planet operated on principles entirely alien to terrestrial physics. Time itself seemed malleable, watches ran inconsistently, and voices carried differently depending on location. These anomalies suggested a deeper connection between the environment and its inhabitants, one that transcended conventional biology. Driven by curiosity and scientific rigor, the team ventured deeper into the planet's interior, descending into cavernous networks carved naturally, or perhaps unnaturally, into the bedrock. Luminescent fungi clung to walls, casting eerie shadows that danced as though alive. The air grew denser, carrying faint scents both sweet and metallic. Strange echoes reverberated through the tunnels, sounds that defied explanation. At first, the team assumed these noises originated from geological activity, but closer inspection revealed patterns too deliberate to be random. Something, or someone, was communicating. In one particularly large chamber, they discovered pools of viscous liquid glowing faintly blue. When prodded with analysis tools, the substance reacted violently, sending ripples across its surface that mimicked waveforms akin to sound. Could this be a primitive language? Or something far more advanced? The implications were staggering. If the ecosystem possessed a means of communication, then traditional definitions of life needed reevaluation. Meanwhile, signs of larger organisms began appearing. Claw marks etched into stone, skeletal remains half buried in sediment, and tracks leading further into unexplored depths. Fear mingled with fascination as the scientists pressed onward, driven by the thrill of discovery despite mounting evidence of unseen dangers lurking just beyond their reach. Leaving the caves behind, the team entered what appeared to be a dense forest, but calling it such felt inadequate. Towering trees made of crystalline material refracted light into dazzling displays of color, creating an ever-shifting kaleidoscope overhead. Leaves hung motionless until disturbed, at which point they released bursts of energy resembling miniature lightning storms. Such aggressive reactions forced the researchers to tread carefully, lest they trigger unintended consequences. Among the foliage, creatures unlike any terrestrial species darted between branches. Some resembled insects, but moved with fluid grace, their exoskeletons shimmering iridescently. Others defied classification altogether, morphing shapes mid-motion as if undecided about their own forms. Cameras struggled to capture clear footage, as lenses fogged up inexplicably whenever focused on certain areas. Sensors indicated heightened electromagnetic activity, suggesting the presence of forces humans barely understood. One particularly unsettling encounter involved a creature composed entirely of tendrils, each ending in what looked like tiny mouths lined with needle-like teeth. Rather than attacking, it simply watched, its movements slow and deliberate. Was it curious, hostile, or merely indifferent? No one dared approach closely enough to find out. Instead, they marked the area for future study, acutely aware that every step forward brought them closer to unraveling the planet's secrets and potentially awakening threats they weren't equipped to handle. Further exploration led the team to a coastline unlike any other, where waves crashed against jagged cliffs made of glassy minerals. Beyond lay an ocean that seemed impossibly still, its surface reflecting the sky with mirror-like precision. Closer inspection revealed subtle currents moving beneath, hinting at immense activity hidden below. Submersible drones were launched immediately, transmitting live feeds back to the command center. What they saw left everyone speechless. The water teemed with life, not fish or plankton, but massive, gelatinous beings pulsating rhythmically. Schools of floating orbs trailed behind them, emitting low-frequency vibrations detectable even without specialized equipment. Most astonishingly, these organisms exhibited coordinated behaviors, working together in ways reminiscent of hive minds. Patterns formed and dissolved within seconds, suggesting sophisticated levels of organization. Could this be evidence of collective consciousness? If so, it challenged fundamental assumptions about individuality and intelligence. As the drones ventured deeper, pressure increased exponentially, yet the creatures showed no signs of strain. Adaptability on such a scale implied evolutionary paths vastly different from those on Earth. But there was also danger. Several drones malfunctioned abruptly, their cameras capturing fragmented images of shadowy figures approaching before cutting out entirely. Whether these were predators or guardians remained unclear. But one thing was certain, the ocean held secrets best left undisturbed. The team's journey took them to a vast desert that stretched endlessly toward the horizon, its dunes composed not of sand but of fine, crystalline particles that shimmered like stardust under the twin suns. Each step stirred up tiny whirlwinds that danced erratically before dissipating into nothingness. At first glance, the desert appeared lifeless, but closer inspection revealed faint traces of movement beneath the surface, patterns shifting and rearranging as though guided by an unseen hand. Instruments recorded fluctuations in gravitational pull, suggesting the ground itself was alive or at least influenced by forces beyond human comprehension. As they ventured deeper, the scientists encountered formations resembling colossal hourglasses scattered across the landscape. These structures emitted low-frequency vibrations that resonated through their suits, creating a disorienting sensation akin to vertigo. Initial readings indicated that these hourglasses were not inert objects but dynamic systems capable of manipulating time on a localized scale. Objects placed near them aged rapidly, crumbling into dust within seconds. It became clear that this region operated according to principles entirely alien to terrestrial physics. One researcher, fascinated by the phenomenon, set up a series of experiments to test the limits of these temporal distortions. However, as he worked, the ground beneath him began to shift unpredictably, forming ripples that spread outward like waves on water. Suddenly, a massive fissure opened, revealing a subterranean network filled with glowing veins of energy pulsating rhythmically. The fissure exuded heat so intense it overwhelmed the cooling systems in their suits, forcing the team to retreat hastily. Back at the ship, they reviewed footage captured during the incident, discovering that the fissure had sealed itself almost instantly, leaving no trace behind. This self-healing mechanism suggested a level of adaptability far exceeding anything previously documented. The implications were staggering. If the planet could manipulate time and repair itself autonomously, then its ecosystem might be far more integrated than initially assumed. Every element, from the smallest grain of crystal to the largest geological feature, appeared interconnected, functioning as part of a unified whole. Such complexity raised ethical questions about humanity's role as explorers. Were they merely observers, or had their presence already begun to disrupt this delicate balance? The thought weighed heavily on the team as they prepared for their next expedition, knowing full well that each step forward carried the risk of triggering unforeseen consequences. Their path led them to a cavernous structure nestled within the heart of the desert, its entrance marked by towering spires that pulsed with bioluminescent light. As they approached, the air grew thick with an electric charge, causing hair to stand on end and instruments to malfunction sporadically. Inside, the cavern expanded into a sprawling chamber illuminated by countless glowing pods suspended from the ceiling. Each pod contained what appeared to be embryonic forms of various creatures, their translucent membranes throbbing gently as though breathing. Closer examination revealed intricate networks of fibrous tendrils connecting the pods to one another, forming a web-like lattice that spanned the entire chamber. Sensors detected high concentrations of bioelectric activity emanating from these connections, suggesting a form of communication or energy transfer between the entities. One scientist theorized that this hive served as a central hub for the planet's ecosystem, coordinating activities across vast distances via some unknown mechanism. If true, it would represent a level of organization unparalleled in any known terrestrial system. Despite the awe-inspiring nature of their discovery, unease settled over the group as they noticed subtle changes in the environment around them. The temperature fluctuated wildly, alternating between searing heat and icy cold without warning. Shadows seemed to move independently of their sources, coalescing into shapes that vanished when directly observed. Most disturbingly, several team members reported hearing faint whispers echoing through the cavern, voices speaking in languages devoid of recognizable patterns. Attempts to record these sounds yielded only static-filled audio clips, further deepening the mystery. Driven by scientific curiosity, the team decided to extract samples from one of the pods for analysis. Using remote-controlled drones, they carefully pierced the membrane, drawing out a small quantity of viscous fluid. Almost immediately, the entire chamber reacted violently. Pods began pulsating erratically, releasing bursts of blinding light that temporarily blinded everyone present. The tendrils contracted sharply, pulling the pods closer together until they merged into a single, massive entity that loomed ominously above the researchers. Panic set in as they realized they had triggered something far beyond their understanding, a defensive mechanism designed to protect the hive at all costs. Retreating hastily, they barely escaped as the chamber collapsed behind them, sealing off access to the cavern forever. Back at the ship, preliminary tests on the extracted fluid revealed properties unlike anything ever encountered, a liquid capable of reconfiguring molecular structures instantaneously. While groundbreaking, this discovery came at a cost. The team now understood the risks of tampering with forces they couldn't fully comprehend. The hive had shown them mercy, but there was no guarantee it would do so again. Leaving the desert behind, the team found themselves caught in a sudden storm unlike any weather pattern they had experienced before. Dark clouds gathered overhead with alarming speed, swirling into a vortex that crackled with lightning bolts of unnatural colors: violet, emerald, and gold. The wind howled with an intensity that defied logic, carrying fragments of sound resembling both music and speech. Instruments failed entirely, unable to process the chaotic data streaming in from every direction. What made this storm truly terrifying was its apparent sentience. It pursued them relentlessly, altering its trajectory to match their movements regardless of where they fled. Drones sent ahead to scout safe paths returned damaged beyond repair, their cameras capturing images of shadowy figures emerging briefly from the chaos before vanishing once more. These apparitions bore no resemblance to any known life form, their forms constantly shifting between humanoid silhouettes and amorphous blobs. Desperate for shelter, the team sought refuge inside a nearby cave system partially submerged beneath a shallow lake. The water rippled unnaturally as they entered, forming patterns that mimicked the storm raging outside. Once inside, they discovered carvings etched into the walls, symbols that glowed faintly in response to their presence. Translation efforts proved futile, as the symbols shifted positions whenever examined closely, rendering decoding impossible. It seemed the storm was communicating through these markings, attempting to convey a message humanity lacked the capacity to understand. Hours passed as the storm raged on, its fury unabated. Exhaustion set in among the researchers, who struggled to maintain focus amidst the relentless assault on their senses. Yet, amidst the chaos, moments of clarity emerged. One scientist noticed that the storm's movements corresponded directly to the planet's electromagnetic field, suggesting it acted as a conduit for energy redistribution. Another theorized that the storm might serve as a cleansing mechanism, purging invasive elements, including, perhaps, their own presence from the ecosystem. When the storm finally dissipated, leaving behind an eerie calm, the team emerged shaken but alive. They had survived an encounter with a force far greater than themselves, yet the experience left them questioning their purpose here. Was their mission noble exploration or reckless interference? The storm had delivered its warning loud and clear: tread lightly or face annihilation. Continuing their exploration, the team stumbled upon a pristine lake surrounded by jagged cliffs of iridescent rock. Its surface mirrored the sky so perfectly that distinguishing reality from reflection became nearly impossible. Curiosity piqued, they approached cautiously, deploying drones to analyze the water's composition. What they discovered defied explanation. The lake was not composed of liquid, but rather a dense plasma-like substance that behaved like both solid and fluid simultaneously. As they studied the anomaly, strange occurrences began unfolding. Reflections in the lake did not match their real-world counterparts. Instead, they depicted alternate versions of themselves, older, younger, or bearing injuries sustained during previous encounters. Some reflections smiled warmly, while others glared menacingly, their expressions conveying emotions the actual team members had never felt. The phenomenon extended beyond visual distortions. Voices echoed softly, whispering cryptic phrases in languages long forgotten by humanity. One particularly unsettling incident involved a reflection reaching out of the lake, grasping at a drone hovering too close to the surface. The mechanical device froze mid-air, its circuits overloaded by an unknown energy source before plummeting into the depths below. Retrieval attempts proved futile, as the lake resisted all efforts to penetrate its surface. It seemed sentient, actively preventing intrusion into its domain. Further investigation revealed that the lake acted as a repository of memories, not just for the planet, but potentially for the universe itself. Fragments of civilizations long extinct flickered across its surface, offering glimpses into epochs predating human existence. Ancient wars, celestial migrations, and cosmic cataclysms played out silently, their significance lost to time. For the researchers, standing witness to such grandeur was both humbling and overwhelming. Yet, the lake harbored dangers as well. Prolonged exposure triggered hallucinations, blurring the line between reality and illusion. Several team members reported experiencing vivid dreams while awake, visions of loved ones urging them to leave the planet immediately. Others claimed to see shadowy figures lurking just beyond the edge of perception, watching silently. Despite these warnings, the allure of knowledge kept them tethered to the site, unwilling to abandon such a profound discovery. Little did they know, the lake's revelations were only beginning, and not all truths were meant to be uncovered. The next leg of their journey brought the team to an open plain where the sky itself seemed alive. Clouds twisted and writhed like living organisms, forming shapes that mimicked the creatures they had encountered earlier: giant tendrils, glowing orbs, and even humanoid silhouettes. The air crackled with energy, and every breath felt charged, as though inhaling pure electricity. Instruments failed repeatedly, their readings spiking uncontrollably before flatlining entirely. What truly unnerved the researchers was the way the sky responded to their presence. When one scientist raised a hand in awe, a cloud formation mirrored the gesture, extending a wispy appendage toward them. Another attempted to communicate using flashes of light from a handheld device, only for the sky to reply with bursts of multicolored lightning that illuminated the horizon. It was as if the atmosphere itself was engaging in a dialogue, probing their intentions and testing their resolve. The team soon realized that this living sky wasn't merely reacting, it was learning. Patterns in the clouds grew more complex over time, evolving into intricate designs that resembled fractals or ancient glyphs. One researcher theorized that the sky functioned as a neural network, processing information on a planetary scale. If true, then every storm, every gust of wind, and every ray of sunlight contributed to a collective intelligence far surpassing anything humanity had ever imagined. Yet, there was a darker side to this phenomenon. As night fell, the sky darkened ominously, and the once beautiful formations took on menacing shapes: sharp, jagged outlines resembling predators stalking prey. Shadows danced across the ground, moving independently of any light source. The temperature plummeted, and the air became suffocatingly thick, making it difficult to breathe even through their containment suits. Panic set in as the researchers realized they were being tested, not just physically but mentally. Hallucinations plagued them, visions of their deepest fears manifesting in vivid detail. One member claimed to see the faces of deceased colleagues staring down from the heavens, while another swore he heard his own voice whispering warnings in his ear. Eventually, the team managed to retreat to the safety of their ship, shaken but unharmed. Back inside, they reviewed the data collected during their encounter, discovering patterns that suggested the sky's behavior was not random but purposeful. Its actions served as both a warning and an invitation, a reminder of the planet's power and a challenge to prove their worthiness. Though they had survived, they now understood that the ecosystem viewed them not as equals but as variables to be monitored closely. Every step forward carried the risk of tipping the balance irreversibly. Deep within the heart of the planet lay a forest unlike any other, a sprawling expanse of towering crystalline trees that refracted light into dazzling displays of color. Each tree emitted a soft hum, creating a symphony of sound that resonated through the air. As the team ventured deeper, they noticed something peculiar. The echoes of their footsteps didn't fade immediately but lingered, overlapping with previous sounds to create haunting melodies. Closer inspection revealed that the crystals weren't passive structures but active conduits for energy. They absorbed vibrations, whether from voices, movements, or even thoughts, and amplified them, replaying fragments of past events. One researcher inadvertently triggered a cascade of echoes that replayed moments from earlier expeditions, including the violent reaction of the bioluminescent hive. The experience was disorienting, blurring the line between memory and reality. The most unsettling aspect of the forest was its ability to mimic emotions. When one team member expressed frustration, the crystals responded by emitting low-frequency tones that induced anxiety. Conversely, moments of calm were met with soothing harmonies that lulled the mind into tranquility. It seemed the forest could manipulate not just sound but also mood, influencing the psychological state of anyone who entered its domain. Driven by scientific curiosity, the team decided to conduct experiments to better understand this phenomenon. Using specialized equipment, they recorded the frequency ranges produced by the crystals and attempted to replicate them artificially. However, their efforts backfired spectacularly. The forest reacted violently, releasing a deafening cacophony of noise that overwhelmed their senses. Trees shattered explosively, sending shards of crystal flying in all directions. The team barely escaped with their lives, retreating to the edge of the forest as the chaos subsided. Back at the ship, they analyzed the recordings, uncovering evidence of encoded messages hidden within the echoes. These messages hinted at a form of communication beyond human comprehension, possibly a language based on resonance rather than syntax. While groundbreaking, this discovery came at a cost. The forest had made it abundantly clear that tampering with its mechanisms would not be tolerated. The researchers left the site deeply unsettled, questioning whether their pursuit of knowledge was worth the risks posed by forces they scarcely understood. Their journey led them to the edge of a colossal chasm that stretched endlessly into darkness, its depths impenetrable even to the most advanced scanning technology. The air around the chasm vibrated faintly, producing a low-frequency hum that resonated in their chests. Strange symbols glowed along the rim, pulsating rhythmically as though alive. Touching them elicited sharp jolts of electricity, forcing the researchers to maintain a safe distance. Drones deployed into the abyss transmitted fragmented images before losing signal entirely. What little footage survived depicted massive structures suspended mid-air, defying gravity and logic. Some resembled architectural marvels carved from stone, while others appeared organic, like the skeletal remains of titanic creatures. Glowing tendrils snaked through the void, connecting these structures in a web-like lattice. The entire scene evoked the image of a city frozen in time, or perhaps a graveyard of forgotten civilizations. As the team studied the chasm, they began experiencing vivid dreams filled with cryptic imagery, towering monoliths inscribed with alien hieroglyphs, rivers of molten gold flowing upward, and shadowy figures beckoning them closer. These visions persisted even after waking, blurring the boundary between consciousness and sleep. One researcher described feeling an inexplicable pull toward the chasm, as though it called to him on a subconscious level. Others reported hearing whispers emanating from the void, voices speaking in languages devoid of recognizable patterns. Despite the ominous signs, the team pressed forward, determined to uncover the secrets hidden below. Using remote-controlled probes equipped with reinforced shielding, they descended cautiously into the abyss. Progress was slow, hindered by unpredictable gravitational anomalies and sudden bursts of energy that threatened to destroy their equipment. Yet, as they ventured deeper, they discovered evidence of intelligent design, artifacts bearing intricate carvings that told stories of a civilization long extinct. The implications were staggering. This planet was not just home to a thriving ecosystem, but also the remnants of an advanced culture whose achievements dwarfed humanity's own. However, the chasm offered no answers about what had caused their downfall or whether their fate awaited intruders who dared disturb their resting place. The team withdrew reluctantly, haunted by the knowledge that some mysteries were best left buried. Farther inland, the team encountered a solitary mountain rising abruptly from the surrounding plains. Its peak pierced the sky, shrouded in perpetual mist that shimmered with iridescent hues. Closer inspection revealed that the mountain was not composed of rock but of a dense, fibrous material resembling muscle tissue. It pulsed faintly, contracting and expanding as though breathing. Sensors detected immense bioelectric activity emanating from the mountain, suggesting it was alive, or at least possessed qualities typically associated with living organisms. Curiosity drove the researchers to climb higher, navigating treacherous slopes that shifted unpredictably beneath their feet. At times, sections of the mountain seemed to dissolve entirely, forcing them to backtrack and find alternate routes. Near the summit, they discovered a cavernous opening leading into the mountain's interior. Inside, walls lined with crystalline nodes emitted soft glows, casting eerie shadows that danced across the chamber. The air smelled faintly metallic, carrying traces of ozone that tingled against their skin. As they explored deeper, they stumbled upon a massive chamber containing what appeared to be a central nervous system, an intricate web of fibers pulsating with energy. Surrounding it were clusters of smaller nodules, each glowing faintly as though monitoring vital signs. It became clear that the mountain functioned as a guardian of sorts, overseeing the planet's ecosystem and ensuring its continued survival. Any disruption to its equilibrium triggered immediate responses, ranging from localized storms to seismic tremors. The researchers realized with growing unease that their presence had already registered as a threat, prompting subtle changes in the environment designed to drive them away. One particularly alarming incident occurred when a section of the chamber collapsed suddenly, trapping several team members beneath rubble. Rescue efforts were hampered by the mountain's erratic behavior, which included releasing bursts of heat intense enough to melt metal. Miraculously, everyone survived, but the ordeal left them shaken. They retreated hastily, leaving behind valuable equipment in their haste to escape. Back at the ship, they reflected on the mountain's role in maintaining balance, a role that brooked no interference from outsiders. Humanity's arrogance had nearly cost them dearly. All roads seemed to lead to a single location, a convergence point where multiple ecosystems intersected seamlessly. Here, crystalline forests merged with sentient oceans, and bioluminescent flora intertwined with shifting sands. The air buzzed with an electric charge so potent it caused hair to stand on end. Instruments malfunctioned entirely, rendering technology useless. At the center of this nexus stood a towering obelisk made of translucent material that refracted light into dazzling displays of color. Etched into its surface were symbols identical to those seen throughout their journey, glyphs that pulsed rhythmically, as though alive. Touching the obelisk elicited a surge of energy that coursed through their bodies, inducing visions of the planet's history. Ancient civilizations rose and fell, cataclysmic events reshaped landscapes, and life adapted relentlessly to survive. The obelisk served as a repository of knowledge, a living archive documenting the evolution of the planet's ecosystem. Yet, accessing this information came at a price. Prolonged contact induced hallucinations, blurring the line between reality and illusion. Researchers reported seeing alternate versions of themselves, each representing potential outcomes based on choices yet to be made. Some visions were hopeful, depicting peaceful coexistence with the planet's inhabitants. Others were grim, showing humanity's destruction at the hands of forces beyond their control. Realizing the gravity of their situation, the team debated whether to continue their exploration or leave the planet untouched. They understood now that their mission had disrupted a delicate balance, forcing the ecosystem to adapt in ways detrimental to both parties. Their presence had awakened ancient mechanisms designed to protect the planet from invasive elements, including them. After much deliberation, they decided to withdraw, vowing to share their findings responsibly. As they departed, the obelisk pulsed brightly, releasing a wave of energy that enveloped the area. When the light faded, the convergence point had vanished, erased as though it had never existed. The message was clear. The planet had safeguarded its secrets, trusting humanity to learn from their mistakes. As their ship ascended into orbit, the researchers reflected on everything they had witnessed. A world teeming with life forms so alien they defied classification, ecosystems interconnected in ways unimaginable, and forces capable of manipulating time, space, and consciousness itself. This planet was not just a collection of biological and geological wonders. It was a living entity striving for harmony with the cosmos. Their mission had taught them humility, reminding them that humanity was but a small part of a vast, intricate universe. The discoveries they brought back would reshape science forever, offering insights into fields ranging from biology to artificial intelligence. Yet, they also carried a heavy burden, the responsibility of ensuring their knowledge was used wisely. From the observation deck, they watched as the planet shimmered briefly, almost as though bidding them farewell. Then, it faded into the void, leaving behind only memories and unanswered questions. Though their journey had ended, its impact would resonate throughout history. Subscribe now to explore more thrilling tales of science, adventure, and the boundless mysteries of the universe.